Good evening. I'm Adriana Diaz. This is a CBS News special report. We are coming on the air live tonight, moments after shots have rung out at a rally where President Trump was addressing the crowd. Our Scott MacFarlane is there. I'm going to bring him in tonight. But the scene has been described as chaotic. Several shots were heard. President Trump hit the stage. Secret Service came in, and we're going to bring in Scott MacFarlane to let us know what he has seen and heard. Scott?
Adriana, it was a series of explosive sounds just about 5 minutes into the president's rally, the former president's rally here in Butler County, Pennsylvania. We saw the Secret Service rush the podium when the noises began, move President Trump, former President Trump, off the stage. And when he emerged, he appeared to have some blood somewhere near one of his ears. He raised his fist in defiance and moved with the Secret Service detail to some type of motorcade vehicle. And this rally has since ended. This was about 6:05 on the East Coast. The series of explosive noises shuddered through this crowd. So many of the thousands of people here went to the ground as law enforcement, what appeared to be some form of paramilitary or Secret Service detail, rushed to the left side of the stage behind former President Trump. They appeared to move someone or something out of the way. And now this crowd, this rally crowd, is departing. The former president has been moved off site. A series of explosive noises 5 minutes into the former president's rally here near Pittsburgh. He appeared to emerge defiantly with his fist in the air, but with some type of blood coming near one of his ears. We're working to get more information right now, but we can tell you this crowd is agitated. They are, at some point, defiant. Some are refusing to leave. Some are in tears. But this rally appears over, Adriana.
It looks like a chaotic scene there in Pennsylvania, Scott. Just horrific news. And this is a crowded area with, I'm sure, what was very heavy security. Scott, can you explain to me what kind of security people need to go through just to get to these fairgrounds?
You need to be screened to enter this area. We all had to go through magnetometers, had to have our bags checked, had to have our electronics checked. There is a visible Secret Service detail. You can see it in each corner of these fairgrounds in Butler County, Pennsylvania. I can tell you, when the series of explosives went off, some of us were confusing it for what would sound like firecrackers. But it was quite clear to the crowd immediately that there shouldn't be firecrackers going off here, and so many people took cover. We jumped beneath the rafters upon which I'm standing, which is behind the seated part of this crowd. Others just hit the deck, got into the grass. The former president was, you may see this better than me from the footage, removed by a Secret Service detail that seemed to pounce immediately. In fact, a lot of people were conflating this for firecrackers. It didn't go down until they saw the former president get rushed by his security detail. We can't speak to his condition right now. All we can say is he jumped back up, raised his fist in the air. The crowd cheered when he did, and he appeared to have some bit of blood on his head at the time.
Raised his fist in the air. We are all praying that he is okay. We understand the Secret Service has whisked him away in the motorcade. The FBI, we're told, is aware. But this right now, just as it's happening, is a Secret Service investigation. Scott, this comes as all eyes were really on this rally because we are just days before the Republican National Convention. And at any moment, the president, the former president, was expected to announce his VP pick. So this was a significant rally. And, you know, at a time where there's been a lot of scrutiny, a lot of focus on who that could have been. We are getting in some comment here, some commentary from J.D. Vance, the senator from Ohio, who was one of the contenders for former President Trump's VP pick. He has written on X, "Everyone join me in praying for President Trump and everyone at that rally. I hope everyone is okay." It is a sentiment that we all echo. Scott, can you tell us what is happening now? We're seeing some pictures, likely from earlier, of a motorcade being taken out and security personnel in camouflage heading in with long guns, surely trying to secure the area.
I'm seeing another ambulance move in right now, Adriana. Pardon me as I look away, but I see another ambulance behind one of the rafters near where former President Trump was speaking. This crowd is 90% gone from the seating area. They've moved back behind us, and some of them in the direction of their cars or towards all the walking areas that got them the very long walk from the parking lots to the rally site. But we see no shortage of medical units. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3 fire truck or medical units nearby, a police detail keeping the crowd away from that area. To be clear, this is a heavily secured event. This is not just a hanging out at the county fairgrounds. You had to get wanded. You had to go through metal detectors. You had to go through a Secret Service protective detail to get into this site. And people were arriving here as early as 10 or 11 this morning. People were entering this area as early as 1 o'clock this afternoon. They've been screened, which begs any number of questions. I could also tell you that it's worth noting the crowd, some of them are being particularly hostile. They're yelling in the direction at us, yelling in the direction of authorities, but they are emptying out. Rally's over.
It's incredible, Scott, how quickly that crowd emptied out. When we were talking just moments ago, it was packed. And now when we just saw you recently, you can see that that area has been cleared. I can hear the yelling behind you, Scott. No doubt this is a difficult, frightening moment for everyone who was there, everyone across the country who was watching, for there to be shots to have been fired toward the president. And at this point, it's too early to know exactly what happened. We saw him reach up and touch his head. We don't know if he was hit. We don't know if he was grazed. We don't know if someone else was hit. You just told us, Scott, that you saw an ambulance at the scene. But this is a moment that is going to change the trajectory of this campaign. Already, so much focus had really been on this campaign on the side of President Biden. Now we are talking about the unthinkable, potentially former President Trump on stage as shots ring out here in Butler County, Pennsylvania. Scott, can you tell us a bit of what you're seeing now? What are people yelling behind you?
No, they're yelling at us. Some of the members of the crowd are gesturing towards us and screaming vulgarities at the media. We're all in a row here on the rafters above the stage, above the seated area. But I could see police or law enforcement of some sort, Secret Service, state police or county police, moving the crowd out. They're getting everybody out of here, which raises a few possibilities, doesn't it, Adriana? That they have to collect some type of evidence or investigate some type of incident, some type of crime, if these were, in fact, gunshots. Or they're concerned about everybody's safety as people are now moving in aimless directions, bumping into each other, bumping into tossed equipment. There's a lot of debris around here, too. People just hit the ground. Chairs were toppled. We jumped beneath our elevated stage. Cameras and stands and tables fell on top of us. It was a chaotic moment. I don't think that's overstating it. Once everybody recognized 2 or 3 seconds in, these might be gunshots. It was a sequence, a fast sequence of explosions, as if somebody had lit off 10 or 12 firecrackers in a row. And it's easy to conflate firecrackers and some types of gun rounds. But once everybody recognized something was afoot here, when the Secret Service moved in to former President Trump, everybody recognized the severity of the situation. And there were people moving in different directions, running into each other, or just face planting into the grass or into the ground. And you can see, still, from my vantage point on the other side of this camera, people in tears, people hugging each other, people comforting each other. That's the scene in Butler County, Pennsylvania, where there was to be a marathon rally of former President Trump that only got 5 minutes in before this incident occurred.
Scott, what you're describing is horrific. This is the worst possible scenario at an event like this. Our politicians are supposed to be able to address the public in a safe environment, and that is why there is so much security, the security that you've described, people being wanded down, having their bags checked just to get into that area. And, we understand why tensions are so high, why people are so emotional there. This is really just, it's a tragic moment. And when you were there, when it happened, Scott, you mentioned it sounded like firecrackers. How long did it take for people in the crowd to realize what was happening?
I want to toss it over to
Took about 4 or 5 seconds for a lot of us to recognize that, first of all, firecrackers shouldn't be lit or ignited at an event like this, so there was something suspicious about it. And even though it sounded like firecrackers, there was a pretty quick realization this could be something much more dangerous. And let me be unequivocal about something. This is a security failure of epic, historic proportions, that there was some type of explosive noise. The former president had to be tackled and taken off stage by a Secret Service with blood appearing to come from his head. That a crowd of thousands at a presidential rally had to hit the ground, some of them colliding with each other, equipment falling on their heads and our heads at one point. No matter what this ends up being, this was a security failure at an event that is secured by the U.S. Secret Service and any number of other law enforcement agencies, where everybody in the space had to be screened and wanted by metal detectors and officers. It's just calamitous as a failure.
And we're getting new reporting in, Scott. Our Olivia Rinaldi, who was there, says that they see some blood on the bleachers. We're also hearing, I'm just getting some more information here. We're also hearing that the president is off-site. And Jane, what did you just say? We now have Robert Costa joining us on the phone. Bob, what can you tell us?
Not your average day at the office.
I've had a lot of weird days.
Do we have Bob?
I can tell you.
We lost Bob. Scott, we're going to bring you back in here. Scott, can you hear me?
Hey, it's Costa.
Scott, you know, what you described there is, you know, we've seen these rallies hundreds of times. This is not the first time that, you know, the former president has held a rally like this. They really should have this security protocol down. But like you said, clearly there was a breach. Clearly there was some kind of issue here for shots to have rung out, not only before you saw the president duck down, but afterward. We have reporting that there were shots that were fired after the fact, after he was carried out on stage.
We heard a long sequence of explosions. Again, that's at about the 5-minute mark of this rally. After we all recognized these were likely, if not potentially, gunshots, we all took cover. And I'll admit we lost our view of the stage at that point. You can see it's all askew right now. The sign is off center. Things are toppled. Chairs are toppled. There's a helicopter going overhead right now. I also saw at one point, after the former president was removed, a set of law enforcement or responders, some in paramilitary gear, you know, the camouflage gear with helmets, run toward the left side of the podium, from my perspective, it would have been the former president's right, and focus on someone or something about 50 to 100 feet to the left, to the camera's left of where former President Trump was speaking, to the former president's right side. That happened about maybe 60 seconds, 90 seconds after the explosive noises occurred. But law enforcement now appears to be growing in number on site. I see more vehicles, more flashing lights than I did when the speech began. And they have moved this crowd out of the seated area, out of the area immediately around the stage.
Scott, this is now a crime scene, and we're hearing from our reporter, Olivia Rinaldi, who is there. That crime scene tape is being put up. The area, like you said, is being cleared. And now this is a live investigation that the Secret Service is involved in. I want to bring in our Bob Costa, who's been speaking to Trump sources all day. Bob, what have you heard?
This is an event that has sent off a seismic explosion inside of American political circles. Top Democrats and top Republicans working the phone already with me, asking me if they're hearing anything. They're trying to reach Donald Trump and his advisors. This is a shocking event to have an alleged shooting at a campaign event for the presumptive nominee just days before the convention opens in Milwaukee. There's a lot of concern. The former president, 78 years old, seen to be by his allies and friends as in good physical health. This is something that has rattled everyone just within the last minutes. A lot of uncertainty about what exactly happened, trying to talk to sources of the Justice Department and the Secret Service about what exactly took place.
And Bob, we're just getting some new reporting into the newsroom right now. We're being told that the former president is safe and that they have implemented protective security measures. So that is The latest that we have here, former President Trump is safe right now. He is in with the Secret Service, who escorted him out swiftly after this event. But Bob, shocking, like you said, is the word. Troubling is the word. Worrisome is also the word for what just happened and transpired at this Trump rally. These rallies are moments where people can gather around a candidate, support a candidate. This is the democratic process, and for it to be interrupted in this way is really an affront to the democratic process. We are still learning more about what happened. This was still moments ago. Go ahead, Bob.
And this is unprecedented in recent political history. You see the former president there raising his fist. This is someone who has been defiant. In past interviews with Trump, he has confided with me. He has always been worried about his health in terms of possible violence on the campaign trail. And he has said he has sort of a fatal view about some of his exposure publicly, but he wants to get out there with campaign rallies. In the past, I've talked with former President Trump about how he sees people like George Wallace, the former presidential candidate who has been shot years ago, decades ago. But this kind of violence is highly unusual in modern American politics, thankfully so. But you see the former president raising his fist in defiance. Ronald Reagan last shot in the early 1980s when he was president of the United States at the Hilton Hotel in Washington. And he famously also expressed defiance in the hospital room when he was dealing with that shooting and that assassination attempt at George Washington University Hospital. So a moment in history here, a possible tragedy, likely averted, but a tragic event for America to see a major political figure shot. I mean, this has echoes of 1968. Unfortunately, when you saw Dr. Martin Luther King gunned down, a major force in this country, Robert F. Kennedy running for president in California in 1968. Now, former President Trump, unfortunately, to the list of those who have been shot while running for president.
Bob, that is exactly right. This is already a tragedy, already a historic moment that we just saw unfold. Thankfully, we're told former President Trump is safe. That is the most important thing right now. We do not have details of his condition. We saw when this transpired, he touched his ear, as you're seeing right now, and he dropped to the ground, and he was escorted out, carried away by the Secret Service. He is safe. That is what we are being told. But let's get some more perspective here. We have our Ed O'Keefe on the line from Milwaukee, where he is already there setting up for our coverage for the Republican National Convention. Ed?
Adriana, the news of this comes, ironically, as the facility where the convention is set to begin on Monday is already under the requisite Secret Service security check, which had gotten underway just this afternoon. This is a city that is making big preparations for this four-day affair. We've seen local police out doing sort of runs through the streets on their bikes to get their sense of what streets have been closed and who might be out and about protesting or planning to. But this is, as you guys have been saying, a total shock and tragedy and a completely unanticipated event at what was supposed to be an otherwise sort of pep rally and prep rally for the former president as he makes his way to Wisconsin in the coming days. This Midwestern city was supposed to host this event 4 years ago for Democrats. Republicans opted to pick it instead, and conventioneers are starting to make their way in this direction. We have no official word from convention organizers here or the Republican Party as they prepare. And obviously, everyone coming to this city, if they're getting off planes in the coming hours that they're in the air right now, are going to be shocked once they learn what has transpired.
And Ed, how could this change the trajectory of the campaign? This is something that, go ahead.
No, I mean, obviously that begs that question, but Adriana, there's just no way to know. And it's to the point that Scott and Bob have been making, we all have kept in the back of our minds the possibility of something exactly like this unfolding in exactly this kind of setting. A large campaign rally, a small campaign event where somebody walks in and tries to cause trouble like this, especially in an era when, you know, shootings have occurred at all sorts of public events in recent years. The fact that it had not happened until today at a political one was a miracle, to be frank. And now we'll have to wait and see not only how is the former president, we wish him the best, but also was anyone else there injured? And how does this change the makeup of how campaigning can continue, not only for president, but for every other public office in this country, if now a candidate for the White House has been apparently injured after whatever this incident is in Pennsylvania?
Politicians want to be as close to the public as possible. That's why you see them in crowds. That's why you see them at rallies. That's why you see them reaching out and shaking hands and trying to reduce the barriers between them and their crowds. And like you said, this is going to call into question, do we need to have even greater security measures? Do we need to have bulletproof glass surrounding campaigners as they are on the stages of these campaigns addressing the public?
Here's what's ironic about an event like this. Those people that are there or were there for that event should have been screened, would have been screened by U.S. Secret Service. Similar, but perhaps not as aggressive, depending on the deployment of Secret Service personnel, as you do when you go through an airport and you're told, don't bring certain things to the event, don't bring large bags. And don't necessarily and anticipate that you're going to be in security lines and whatnot. So it is designed to be an event that is protected, which is why it's equally stunning to those that cover these kinds of events that something like this could happen. The fact that it was open air, however, adds a level of risk that may have led to whatever's unfolded here in the last hour.
All right, Ed, we're going to get back to you in a minute. We're going to bring in Bob Costa, who's joining us now here on set. Bob, what is the latest that you're hearing from your sources?
Every single Republican source now, and Democrats as well, are looking for updates. They know that former President Trump is in a safe spot, as you have reported, and our CBS News team has confirmed. But they're trying to find out more information about what exactly unfolded. This was a catastrophic security failure in the eyes of many of my sources already. Trump, as you noted, is someone who has rallies almost every week, sometimes multiple times a week. And to have a shot come across the bow of a stage, Secret Service covered the former president on stage. But we are in such an urgent political moment, a heated cultural moment, to see this unfold in real time. My heart goes out to everyone who was there at the rally, reporting on the rally, attending the rally, those in the Trump family, those in the Trump campaign. This kind of violence is something that is just, we have not seen it before. American political leadership, and it's reflected in my text messages and phone calls in the last few minutes, we're not prepared for this sort of moment. It's a bit surprising in a way. We're in such a charged political time. But everyone now, I've never seen it like this in the past 15 years of reporting, shocked to see the former president there, his hand in the air, defiant after it being grazed potentially, allegedly, it seems, by an assailant, someone trying to assassinate him in some way. We're trying to learn new information, take our time to make sure we can confirm everything. But there are ripples and waves going out throughout the top ranks of American political leadership at this time. This is the presumptive nominee on the brink of his nomination in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is something we really have not seen from a presidential figure since Ronald Reagan, just down the street from our CBS News Bureau, near DuPont Circle at the Hilton Hotel in the early 1980s. This is something we haven't seen on a campaign since George Wallace, the former governor, was almost killed during his presidential campaign. And, of course, Robert F. Kennedy, his son, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., running for president now as an independent candidate. His father killed in California in 1968. You can see the former president there dunking. He loves the campaigns. I've been covering him since 2014, 2015, when he started to have campaign rallies. This is not an unusual event for him. This is the bread and butter of his political career. The popular crowd, the roar of the crowd, he feeds off of this. And to have him react with his fist in the air, this is someone who has, throughout his entire life, told me in different interviews that he has seen the highs and the lows, and he keeps coming back. It's part of his personality to deal with aggressive crowds, aggressive critics, but he has never faced anything like this, an assassination attempt at a rally on the eve, almost, of the Republican National Convention.
And that's what it could have been, an assassination attempt. That is the first time that we're hearing those words, and that is
Well, when someone shoots at you,
that's what it is.
It's an assassination attempt in some capacity when you have a major political figure. We're pacing ourselves, trying to learn more about exactly what unfolded, but certainly some kind of weapon was discharged at former President Donald Trump.
And Bob, you've spoken to the former president. Has he ever talked about his concerns over the risks involved in being so close to the public in the way that he likes to be?
He has mused about this privately to many of his associates in the past, and I've reported this previously, that former President Trump often wonders, by being so out front publicly, does he have some sort of risk? He has wondered, because he is such a different sort of political figure, not part of the traditional Republican Party, not someone who's welcomed by the political establishment necessarily in either party in some respects, what kind of violence he might face. But it has been something he's mused about versus something he's ever had to interact with publicly. But let's remember, he is 78 years old. This is someone who likes to talk about his physicality, his ability to have a good health report at his age. But he has also lived through history, so he is no stranger to what we've been discussing about what has happened in American politics in the past. But I've covered so many presidential candidates, and I often talk to them sometimes about Bobby Kennedy and about what they think about the risk of being out there on the campaign trail, because so few candidates, when they're running for president, until they become a nominee, have Secret Service protection. Former President Trump, of course, as a former president, has Secret Service protection. It's notable that every former president and every former first lady in the United States, and this was passed by law by Congress a few decades ago, have Secret Service protection for the rest of their life. Former vice presidents do not necessarily have it unless there's a security risk. It's only former presidents and major party nominees who have that level of Secret Service protection. And Trump, heading into the convention, has an enormous footprint. If you ever cover Trump, it's car after car after car, multiple groups of agents. And for this to happen, again, a seismic political moment, a security failure at some respect, and everyone right now, I mean, I've never seen anything like this in the past year, at least, that everyone is wondering what happened, why, is Trump okay? We've reported he's in a safe place, but again, we're in the immediate aftermath.
Bob, we are now getting a statement from the Secret Service, from their spokesperson, Anthony Guglielmi. He said, quote, an incident occurred the evening of July 13th at a Trump rally in Pennsylvania. The Secret Service has implemented protective measures, and the former president is safe. This is now an active Secret Service investigation, and further information will be released when available. The most important part of that statement is the former president is safe. This was, as you said, it could have been fatal. I don't want to talk about the worst possible scenario, but that's what it really was. This is where we are. These are the stakes in a situation like this. But we're being told from the Secret Service that the former president is safe.